Hi, welcome to Digging into China. I'm Dong Sheng. Today, I'd like to share a Nikkei news report that has generated a lot of discussion. The report is titled, Analysis, China's New 2029 Reform Goal Shows Xi Jinping is Worried. When I read the third plenary session communique and saw that reforms are slated to be completed by 2029, I inferred that Xi Jinping might be preparing for a fourth term. The unwritten rule within the CCP has been that leaders serve only 2 terms, or 10 years. Xi Jinping has already broke this norm with his third term, which is set to end in 2027. The new communique's 2029 reform goal suggests plans for a fourth term. However, the Nikkei news article provides a much deeper and more logical analysis than my own, and it also raises some points I hadn't considered. Let's see how the article analyzes this. The Chinese Communist Party's key 4-day meeting disappointed much of the global audience that was expecting major policy initiatives designed to right the ailing economy in general and the prolonged property crisis in particular. This expectation went unmet. The third plenum of the party's 20th Central Committee ended with few newsworthy economic announcements. There was a politically noteworthy move, however. The communique was issued Thursday, and the full text of a resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization came on Sunday. In them, the Central Committee, led by Party General Secretary and Chinese President Xi Jinping, suddenly declared that it has set a new goal of completing its reform effort by 2029. According to Nikkei News, this isn't a reform goal but rather a political maneuver. Why is it seen as a political maneuver? The article addresses 2 main issues. First, why does Xi Jinping emphasize Chinese modernization? What does Chinese-style modernization entail? Second, why is the target set for 2029? The article analyzes both of these aspects. The article contends that the concept of Chinese-style modernization is very vague and its goals are ambiguous, which differs from past CCP targets. For example, Deng Xiaoping set clear, quantifiable reform goals, including achieving the status of moderately developed country in 2 stages. However, Xi Jinping's concept of Chinese-style modernization is just a slogan without clear goals. As the Nikkei news article points out, these vague targets give Xi the flexibility to interpret the progress however he wants. Without the specific objectives, he can define success on his terms. If his term extends beyond 2027 following the next National Congress, his administration could claim that the reforms are completed by 2029, regardless of China's political and economic conditions. So why did Xi Jinping choose 2029? The Nikkei news article analyzes Xi's political calculations, suggesting that he deliberately avoided setting a target for the end of his current term and opted for 2029 instead. This indicates careful political planning, as the next 5 years are likely to see economic, financial, and real estate bubbles burst in China. Therefore, by the time of the 21st CCP National Congress in 2027, the economic situation and the data are unlikely to be favorable. If the reform goals were set for 2027, Xi Jinping would have nothing to boast about, facing a difficult macroeconomic situation at the 21st National Congress. He could then argue that with 2 more years, the reforms could be completed and the situation would significantly improve. Thus, setting the target for 2029 helps alleviate the pressure on Xi Jinping at the 21st National Congress or provides him with an excuse, which is why this 2029 strategy came into being. If doubts about Xi Jinping's continued leadership arise during the National Congress, he can argue that his reform goals are on the verge of being realized and thus he must remain in power. This reasoning is entirely consistent with the strategy Xi has used over the past decade to push for autocratic lifelong rule. Xi is very familiar with this approach. To justify lifelong rule, he has told the Chinese people that the international environment is turbulent turbulent and that China is on the brink of collapse. He claims that with his guidance, the 1.4 billion people can avoid a disaster. Therefore, due to the severe situation, China cannot do without Xi Jinping. Similarly, with his 2029 political calculations, Xi will tell the Chinese people the same story in 2027. He will point to the bursting real estate bubbles, the local debt crisis, and the financial crisis, arguing that these issues require his leadership in reform. He will assert that if he continues to guide the reforms for another 2 years, they will yield results. This logic is very much in line with Xi Jinping's consistent thinking. Most people might reach their conclusions about Xi Jinping's calculations at this point. But the Nikkei news article provides a deeper analysis. It questions whether Xi Jinping might consider retiring in 2032 if he succeeds in extending his term through 2027. The article suggests that even if Xi uses the 2029 target to secure his position until 2027, he is unlikely to retire in 2032. The reason is that the third plenary session's decision mentioned not only 2029 but also 2035, which is set as the target year for achieving basic socialist modernization. Therefore, by targeting 2029, Xi is not only securing his position until 2027, but also positioning himself for a potential continued leadership role at the 22nd National Congress in 2032. Why does Xi Jinping consider this approach? The Nikkei news article offers further analysis of Xi's reasoning. It suggests that, like founding father Mao Zedong, Xi would never admit to economic mistakes, although Mao did hand over his position to Liu Shaoqi to take responsibility for the disastrous Great Famine. Admitting errors would lead to criticism that could place immense pressure on Xi. His government is currently facing unprecedented challenges, both at home and abroad. Domestically, with economic challenges and the rising political pressure, and internationally, with the risks of decoupling and other security threats, Xi Jinping's ability to remain in power beyond 2027 may hinge on whether he can demonstrate strong governance and achieve notable accomplishments at the 2027 National Congress. The 2029 target could offer Xi an additional lifeline, allowing him to extend his leadership and potentially observe several more US presidential elections from his position of authority. Here are my takeaways. First, the third plenary session has been broadly criticized for its lack of substance and detail. The Wall Street Journal noted that it was full of slogans and lacking specifics. Nikkei News was more straightforward, stating that the information from the session had no real news value. I concur with this evaluation. Second, Nikkei News' analysis of Xi Jinping's political strategy offers a clearer insight into his design for the third plenary session. This strategy is driven purely by personal political calculations, and Nikkei's analysis is very revealing. Xi Jinping's political maneuvering involves two main aspects. While we have primarily considered how he intends to use the 2029 target to pave the way for a fourth term or as a pretext for it, the analysis uncovers deeper elements of his political planning. Nikkei News' astuteness lies in highlighting a crucial point that most have missed. Xi Jinping's focus on Chinese-style modernization is characterized by vague or ambiguous goals. This ambiguity allows Xi considerable flexibility to adapt and reinterpret them as he sees fit. By defining what constitutes Chinese-style modernization, China's future, and the appropriate policies, Xi centralizes the power to define and adjust these concepts. In essence, he is creating space for himself to potentially extend his leadership indefinitely. Nikkei News analysis exposes a more calculating side of Xi Jinping that is often missed. While both international and domestic opinions often depict Xi as inept, This analysis highlights his shrewdness. Xi understands that China's real estate crisis is unsolvable. The bubble will burst eventually, and the question is whether it will happen gradually or suddenly, with prolonged or acute pain. Similarly, the issue of local government debt is also unavoidable. It's just a matter of when it will explode. Given that the next 5 to 10 years are expected to see worsening conditions, Xi Jinping needs a political strategy for 2029 to manage the adverse macroeconomic environment of 2027. This approach allows him to attribute any difficulties during the coming years to the necessary pains of the reform process, suggesting that once the reforms are completed, things will improve and the problems will be resolved. If you only view Xi Jinping's ambition to extend his fourth term and establishing lifelong rule as his political strategy, you may not fully understand his motives or his audacity. Nikkei News points out a phenomenon that international media has largely overlooked. The article analyzes Xi's 10 years in power, exploring the signals and the realities of Chinese public opinion in a way that has not been previously addressed. Xi Jinping's peak of power occurred during the CCP's 100th anniversary in 2021. It is evident that now is not the current high point of his leadership, particularly with the significant negative impact of events such as Peng Zhaizhou's protest at the Sitong Bridge and the subsequent White Paper movement. Throughout his tenure, Xi was at his most confident and assertive around the 100th anniversary. This period also offered him valuable experiences and insights. What is significant about 2029? It will be the 80th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Nikkei News forecasts that on October 1st, 2029, the CCP will hold a grand military parade and a celebration, which could elevate Xi Jinping's influence and authority to the second highest point of his leadership. This is a part of Xi's political strategy, using the 2029 milestone to strengthen his position. If he reaches 2029, this major political event will enhance his prestige and authority, providing extra momentum for his ambitions for lifelong rule. I highly value the Nikkei News article for its clear and detailed expose of Xi Jinping's personal political strategies. Thank you for watching. Please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.